I'm going to tell you a story of how a pimple on a fisherman's hand almost cost him his life on the high seas. Hi, I'm Jesse Suit, personal injury attorney at Kalfus and Nachman, practicing throughout Virginia. I represented a gentleman who was working on a scallop boat as a fisherman, and he developed a pimple on his hand under a glove. Scallop fishermen work outside, they work on the back deck, on a weather deck, and they go through all the catch that's brought up from the bottom, and they put the scallops in baskets to be processed, and then they take the debris and throw it overboard. It's a difficult job, a lot of work, labor intensive, and he had a glove that was rubbing against his hand that developed a pimple over time. Well, he didn't think much of it, but then the pimple started to grow larger, started to turn red, started to get infected. He told the captain about this. The captain looked at it and told him, don't worry about it, just keep working, it'll be all right. Well, after a few days, his hand started to swell, then his arm started to swell, and then his arm started to turn red. My client went back to the captain and said, look, I've got to go in. We need some help here. I need the Coast Guard to take me in for medical treatment. But the captain was in a very fertile fishing ground and didn't want to go in. Told him, no, why don't you just stop working and cook for us? You don't need medical attention, you'll be okay. Well, that went on for a few more days. My client got sicker and sicker, and then ultimately yellow streaks started going up his arm towards his armpit. At that point, the captain decided to help him and give him some medical attention. Now, I represent a lot of maritime clients, a lot of fishermen, gentlemen that work on tugboats, on ships that go out at sea, and there's an obligation on the part of the owner of a vessel to provide adequate and prompt medical care to anyone that's injured or ill on a vessel. Well, the captain's attempt to provide medical care was incredible. What he did was take a knife and open up the abscessed wound on my client's hand. Pus came out. And then, incredibly enough, he put salt on that wound and wrapped it in raw bacon. I can't explain that. It didn't help. My client got worse and worse. Ultimately, the Coast Guard was called. He was evacuated by helicopter. And when he got to the hospital, the doctors told him if he had not gotten there right about at that time, if he had stayed on the vessel for another 24 hours or so, he could have lost his life. Little things like that happen at sea. They can result in major consequences. If something like that happens, or anything where you're hurt on a boat, call me. Jesse Suit, trial attorney, Kalfus and Nachman.